All have benefited from Third Frontier seed funding, and all have used state investments to brilliant effect. And one of my best examples of education and industry collaborations is the Wright Center of Innovation in Biomedical Imaging that was created in 2003. The major partners include Case Western Reserve, Philips Medical Systems here in Cleveland, and Ohio State, Cardinal Health, and Nationwide Children's Hospital in Columbus. And what have been the results? Well, while creating new imaging systems to more effectively diagnose and treat patients with major health problems, the center has also launched several companies and created more than 375 new jobs. Just 2 months ago, that partnership attracted substantial additional investment, including $33 million from Philips and $5 million from the state through additional Third Frontier funds. Another partnership to use is that involving advanced sensing technologies, which is led by the University of Dayton. IDCast is a world-class leader in sensors research, development, and then commercialization. Applications for its remote sensing technologies are in national security, the aerospace industry, key global corporations with divisions that are based here in Ohio. It was established in 2007. IDCast has dozens of collaborators, including the Air Force Research Laboratory, Ohio State, Boeing, General Dynamics, and many other industrial and university partners. To date, it's leveraged more than $70 million in research and created over 250 new jobs and 3 new companies. A third example, though it's in its earlier stages, links Ohio's leadership in 2 industries that you may not connect, polymers and agriculture. And that's at Ohio State's Agricultural Research and Development Center in Worcester. Faculty there are developing a renewable domestic source of natural rubber. Among the partners are the University of Akron, Bridgestone, Vayance Technologies, and Cooper Tire and Rubber Company. The collaboration actually involves using something you're very familiar with, dandelions. Of course, these are Russian dandelions, to be precise, and as a new source for natural rubber production. Using a renewable rubber source will reduce the nation's reliance on imports in what is a strategic and increasingly expensive resource for both the defense and transportation industries. It provides new crops for Ohio farmers, helping them to diversify their products. It creates new agricultural processing sector jobs. And finally, the unused part of the plant that's not used for rubber is actually being able to be turned into ethanol. The first module of that commercial facility will be in operation in 2013, and right now that project has generated about 165 jobs and $130 million. The larger message in all these stories is that Ohio must aggressively innovate for the future. We all know the importance of being first out of the gate when we're developing new industries, and Silicon Valley is perhaps the best example of that, but we can do even better. We have the ability, the education, the business, and the human resources. And most importantly, we have the character that's necessary to build distinction across multiple industries. At a time when innovation drives economic growth around the world, we must always seek new ideas and new partners. And for our part at Ohio State, we recognize the need to move swiftly, to move diligently, and forever smartly as we pursue the commercialization of research that's being done by our faculty. And as evidence of that, let me simply note to you that we're among the nation's top 10 universities in the volume of research that's being conducted, and second in industry-sponsored research. The potential ancillary benefits of that work are really enormous, and we must make them real. And to do so, this summer we announced an even more assertive approach than we have been pursuing in the past. We've established a comprehensive new technology commercialization effort with a unique proof of concept center that will pool the talents of the university and industrial experts and speed the commercialization of ideas and innovations. Teams will work together to evaluate commercial viability of technologies that are developed at the university, much of it funded through research being paid for at the federal level as well as private level. The primary areas of focus will be in engineering, agriculture, and the health sciences, and much of that activity will be based in the Fisher College of Business's Center for Entrepreneurship. The new Commercialization Center is just one example of higher education assuming a leadership role in partnering with our communities and our states in innovative ways. The message out of all of this is really fairly simple. We cannot just tolerate taking risk. Instead, we have to seek it out, and then we have to embrace it. And that is what's happening in higher education as we talk about it today. Our state's greatest economic strengths are really the creativity, the determination, and resilience of 11 million fellow Ohioans. Those qualities are the source of our shared future prosperity, and leverage them is exactly the business of higher education. Now, public universities were founded to educate citizens capable of sustaining the new democracy. I hope you remember that. And that goal is even embedded in the seal of The Ohio State University. Land-grant institutions such as Ohio State further expanded that ideal, giving vastly greater numbers of young people access to higher education. I've become increasingly concerned, however, about our nation's public education as it works to ensure equal opportunity for every young person. How do we nurture the human spirit, human aspiration, and human achievement? Well, the reality is we do it one life at a time, and it's particularly difficult during challenging economic times. In my time at Ohio State, I've been privileged to know many students, and really they are the reason we are at a university. They energize all of us with their enthusiasm, with their innovative ideas, and with the incredible passion that they show in everything they do. These young people are accomplishing the most remarkable things in the classroom and in our communities. And as they graduate, they carry those values, those skills, and those portraits with them into the world. This past spring quarter, Ohio State graduated a record number of students, 8,652, and we know the exact number because Gordon shook every one of those hands. But I want to share with you the story of one of those graduates. It's lingered in our consciousness, and I share it with you both in a sense of wonder and inspiration. This past June, Janet Soto Rodriguez earned her bachelor's degree in political science from Ohio State. She's the youngest of 10 children and a first-generation college student. Throughout her childhood, she traveled with her family as seasonal migrant workers back and forth between Mexico and Ohio. By her own description, Janet came from a background that was both violent and drug-afflicted. As a young girl, however, she decided she wanted to graduate from high school, and to do so, she established herself in Painesville, Ohio. She excelled in high school and gained admission to Ohio State. As a student at the university, she was exceptionally active in outreach programs. She helped to found the Students for Equal Access, which seeks to increase access to higher education for all qualified students through classroom visits, through community events, and simply by being there for people. She also served as a campus orientation leader for new students, a residence hall advisor, a mentor at Columbus High School. All of the things that I never did when I was a student. And Janet's good grades, her passion, and her action on behalf of social change, those were enough to win her a coveted spot in the Teach for America program. And immediately following our commencement ceremony, her family took her to the airport for a flight to Texas, where she now teaches high school social studies in the Rio Grande Valley, and we want her back when that assignment is done. The basic facts of Janet's story are striking enough. But what's even more compelling is to think about a child possessing such determination, such ambition, even while, as she has said, her family struggled to find money for the very basics of life, such as food, clothing, and shoes. What strength it must have taken for this young girl to press ahead on the journey that would eventually lead her to Ohio State. For she accomplished this while others in her community laughed at her aspirations. Who helped shepherd her along the way? It was her family. It was her teachers, her neighbors, her coaches, a host of good people, creating opportunities for those willing to work hard and to stay focused. Janet's story is the story of many. That, of course, is the essence of the American dream. And it's achievable because of this nation's exceptional system of public education, a system that's constantly under attack. Janet's travels came alive to us once again just 2 weeks ago when we read a very disconcerting story in the New York Times. And I don't know how many of you saw the same thing. The latest figures on college graduation rates as compiled by the College Board are more grim than ever. In the percentage of the population with college degrees, the United States now ranks 12th among 36 developed countries. Imagine, 12th among all developed countries. The gap is growing, even as President Obama is calling for our country to once again reclaim its place at the top of that list. And not surprisingly, the problem is worst for low-income and minority students. From the College Board study comes a really interesting and telling and troubling fact. Students from the lowest income families are 8 times less likely to earn a bachelor's degree than those coming from the highest income families. And let me repeat that, 8 times less likely to get a college degree. The reasons for growing disparity, of course, are easy to see, and I don't need to enumerate all of them. It ranges from more than 13% of the population that's living in great need, and compounding that, of course, is the more than 8 million Americans who've lost their jobs in the last 2 years. Increases in poverty exist all across the board, and we're all familiar with them.